I'm Kathryn Gretsinger, and you're listening to Sounds Like Canada. Marla Lukofsky is a comedian, a writer, and an actor. For 30 years, she's done stand-up comedy in every major city in Canada and across the United States. She's the voice of Good Luck Bear of the famous Care Bears, too. But in the last few years, she's been dealing with a very personal experience. It's now become part of a talk that she gives to audiences right across this country. It's called I'm Still Here, and so is my hair. Marla was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was living in Los Angeles. She learned a lot of lessons from her experience, which she passes on with both humor and somber advice, like this.
I have a to-do list when you have cancer. Number 1, try to have sex when you want to. Number 2, rest when you're weary. Number 3, be active when you're able. Number 4, laugh when it's funny. Number 5, cry when you can. God damn it. There's nothing noble about being stoic. Number 6, live life the way you really want to live it. For the here and now. Let's stop waiting for tomorrow.
Marla Lukofsky joins us now in our Toronto studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you live by your own advice?
Yes, I do. I don't think everybody likes it, but I do. I turn around to anybody and go, hi, want to have sex? Want to have sex? No, and I do try to live life for the here and now and not wait for tomorrow or for tragedy to strike. I do often turn to somebody, whether it be a friend or whatever, and say, I love you, you know. And they're taken aback because people don't talk like that.
No.
But I know I need to say it because you might not be able to tomorrow.
Now, were you a person who lived like that before the experience of cancer?
That's a good question. Yes, but I started to do it a year or two before I got my diagnosis because I'm a deep thinker in that way. I reflect a lot. And I thought about that after losing certain people in my life. And then the cancer came, and everybody thought I developed those thoughts because of the cancer, but I actually acquired them before. But what I saw through my journey and in becoming friends with people who I lost along the way, who became friends of mine, who had also died during our treatments, it became more obvious and apparent that that was really the right way to live.
You were living quite a life when you were diagnosed. Can you take me back and describe for me what a day in Marla's World was like?
Well, I was doing several things at the time. I was doing stand-up comedy at night in nightclubs. And during the day, at that particular time, I was a waitress for several years before them, but at that time I was selling organic fruits and vegetables at the organic farm store at the farmer's market, which is one of the favorite, most wonderful jobs I've ever had in my life. And it was minimum wage, and I worked 6 days a week, no benefits. And I just had a ball. I was outdoors every day. I was dealing with wonderful customers, and I was the only one there, and it was just wonderful. And in fact, I had come to terms with the fact that my career wasn't going as well as I'd wanted it to. And I'd come to terms with many things in my life. I lost relationships, career disappointments. And actually, one day I remember I put my arms up in the air in the middle of the market, and I went, I am so happy, finally. And then I went, uh-oh, what's that? And my life changed for the next 10 years.
So you found a lump?
Yeah, I found a lump. Even though I had a negative mammogram, and I'd seen the gynecologist a couple weeks before, and she said my breast felt perfectly fine. A little long, but fine.
You decided to stay in Los Angeles for your treatment instead of coming home to Canada. Why did you make that choice?
Because I loved Los Angeles. I loved the weather, the sights. I loved seeing the palm trees outside my window. I loved seeing the sunsets at night. And I felt that I had a good group of friends who would support me. And I also met the doctors who would do my treatments, and they impressed me so much that I thought I would never meet doctors like that in Toronto. I never had yet, I should say. And they were so personable and honest, and, called me on the phone, and they were just so respectful and telling me there was no wrong question, just a wrong answer. Unfortunately, my friends didn't stand beside me, but I still decided to stay because the city gave me so much pleasure, and it had become a home base for me that felt familiar. And I'm a Cancerian who has cancer, and familiarity breeds happiness.
there's that combo of humor and fear that sort of go together in this. How did you put your comedy together with your cancer?
It just happens. It just comes out. And, funny things happen to happen. I wrote a memoir of my journey, and it's just a true account of what happened. Like before I even knew I had cancer, I had this suspicious lump that the mammographer, everybody kept feeling, but it wasn't showing up. Even when I was taken to the hospital again and said, let's test her breast, and they still couldn't see it on any test, but they could feel it. And so they wanted to do an ultrasound, but they said they didn't have an opening for 3 hours, so go home. So I left, and I'm walking through the parking lot, and the mammographer runs out of Cedar Sinai, runs after me, shouting across the parking lot, Miss Lukofsky, wait, please, wait. We have an opening right now. So I stood there amazed, and all I kept thinking was, I can't believe she got my last name right.
Oh, no.
And I didn't make that a joke. That's what I thought, because that's who I am. I couldn't believe she got my last name right. Not that she had an opening for me.
Do you find it healing in some way to be able to laugh when you're experiencing something that you're just not sure of?
That would kind of imply that I might use it as a coping mechanism.
Maybe.
I don't. No. Sometimes the truth can be sad and ugly, but you can laugh too.
Now, there's another part in the presentation when you talk about another consequence that would be very familiar to people. Let's have a listen.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Marla, when did you lose your hair? I lost a sensation in my scalp 14 days after the first chemo. The scalp felt weird, like my hair was being bent backwards and I needed to bend it forwards. So what did I do? I hopped in the car and I went out and I bought some shampoo. And while I was driving home, my sideburn felt itchy. So I scratched it and it fell out in my hand. I thought, uh-oh, I think it's starting. I drove home as fast as I could. I walked into the bathroom. I looked in the mirror one last time to the Marla I'd come to know and love finally. And I ran my fingers through my hair. Over and over again. And soon the sink was filled with black. It took about an hour. There were some stubborn clumps of hair still, stuck in my head at the oddest of places. It was frightening to look at. I called it my half-Chernobyl, half-burn victim look. I looked in the mirror and I said, man, I sure hope I kept the receipt for that shampoo.
Oh, no. What? The audience there laughing away, but they sound like they hesitate at the beginning. Who was there watching you perform that?
That was an incredible conference held in Saskatoon. It was the Midwest Conference of the Year for the Canadian Cancer Society for people who have cancer of all types, of all levels. So I was speaking to stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 stage cancer folks. And they laughed, and they got it.
Is it a different experience sharing this story with people who have lived with cancer as opposed to people who are somehow not directly affected by it?
Totally. Now I can say that because I've done enough shows of different types. And yes, and surprisingly enough, it's the folks with cancer that laugh the hardest. I know that's going to sound strange, but it's just they get it. They know I walked in their shoes. They know what I'm talking about. They know what I mean, and I know what they mean. And they're ready to laugh because they're living it. There's nothing you can do. You're living it. And you hear something funny, you can relate to it, you laugh. The other audiences who are only affected on a, sideline level are more apprehensive. They're still more, well, this is a very serious topic. I don't know if I should laugh at that nose joke. Well, yeah, you should actually, but so it takes some time. So with those audiences, they don't laugh as much as the audiences who have cancer. But they cry at all the right parts. I think in my speech, I think it's really hard not to get emotional when listening, because it's a really hard story in some parts. Really, yeah.
Do you ever get sick and tired of talking about it and just want to sort of put it to the side and talk about or do something else?
Nope.
Really?
Well, I do other things in life. I write, and sometimes I write about the cancer. I write about other things that I've experienced in life, but I will never, I can't say never, because this is a new venture for me. And I've been only doing it, this last year. All I can say is for right now, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. It feels so right. I have so many people come up to me at the end saying, "This is your calling. I hope you know that." And that's like, oh my God, I'm getting a message from something, because it feels like that for me too.
What's the message that you're giving then, Marla? What do you want people to take away after they have an opportunity to meet with you and hear your talk?
I don't like to lecture. I don't like to sermonize. But the final and only message that I really leave them with is something that my mother said to me when I was in deep trouble. Spiritually, emotionally, struggling upon coming back to Toronto. And nothing was fitting together in my puzzle. And I was collapsed on the floor, and she picked me up and held me by my shoulders and looked me in the eyes and said, "Marla, you're going to be okay." And I said, I'm not. I can't get through this. And she said, "You can. You're stronger than you think." And that's what I do. I say to the audience, this is what I have to say to you. Not that I'm all okay, not that I got everything together in life. All I can say is, I guess I'm stronger than I think. And you are too, no matter what you're dealing with in life. Doesn't have to be cancer, doesn't have to be a disease. We've all got obstacles. Remember, say it to yourself. You're stronger than you think. That's my message.
Well, that's a good one. Thank you so much for speaking to me this morning, and continued success with sharing your wisdom with the country.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Marla Lukofsky is a comedian, a writer, and an actor. She lives in Toronto. She's been crossing Canada, giving a talk about her experience with breast cancer. It's called "I'm Still Here, and So Is My Hair." Here's Sam Roberts with his song, "Words and Fire."
These words